Afternoon, everybody. This is one of those rare examples or times that I'm going to get political. I cannot help myself. I do political videos every once in a while. If you haven't stumbled across my channel before, check out the narcissism recovery videos, the INFJ videos, the witchcraft videos. This is not the norm for me. But I thought it important to do this because what I'm going to talk about, it's a popular topic, but it's a compromise position, and it's also an honest question that I can't seem to get an answer for, and I've been wondering it for nearly 15 years. So if anybody sees this, see if you can answer this question. So recently, Bernie Sanders was on Bill Maher's show. I don't watch Bill Maher anymore. I used to. I loved him in the Bush era, but he went full Clintonite, established, elitist, out of touch, baby boomer supremacist guy like 6 years ago. But Bernie did good. I saw the clips on Secular Talk on Kyle Kolinski channel. That's where I get my political stuff. It's my fellow INFJ. So, and if you're watching this, I'll spare you the details of going into the whole depth of student debt relief. But to sum it up, basically, it's everybody from Gen X till present, we're told you must go to college. Any degree's a good degree and all that stuff. Don't go in trades. Don't become a firefighter. That's what I was told. But I tried to anyway until the recession hit and, they weren't hiring anymore. So I ended up going to college because firefighter was no longer an option. Hiring freezes. Thanks, George Bush. But we were all told that. And we were told that primarily by baby boomers. We were told that the debt we took out was an investment and all that stuff. And then the recession happened and all the good jobs were gone. And then they're like, well, how dare you expect a job, like just because you graduated college with a science degree and honors, why does that make you, why do you think you deserve a better job than this guy who didn't finish high school? He's so-and-so's nephew. That's all that matters. That might be my area. I had to work it in. So we all know that debate. Now there's the raging debate about, should there be student debt relief? Should there not be? And of course, the older generation, the baby boomers all think no. Gee, why? Because they got theirs. And if you're a baby boomer watching this, I'm not necessarily saying you. Just keep listening. I take a while to get to the point sometimes. I want to give context. I can't help myself. It's a subset of the boomer generation that's why I describe them as baby boomer supremacists, for the reasons that they believe anything that a member of their group does is by definition the best, the pinnacle, and can never be topped and should not be topped. And they truly believe this in the sense that their actions politically, business-wise, all show, pull the ladder up behind us and sit up and talk about how great we are. The type of, the yuppie part of the boomer generation, whoever dies with the most toys wins, the one with the golden Coke spoons and, Gordon Gekko wannabes, and you know what I mean. So, all these people followed their advice because remember, they told us they know everything and we know nothing. They still, now today, they'll still try to give you advice and argue with you if you try to, tell them with facts and logic that things have changed in the past 40 years. They don't want to hear it. 80s forever. 80s forever. Long live Reagan, this subset. So if you think I'm picking on the boomers, I want to throw in, for the blue-collar boomers, this same group of elitist boomers screwed you too with things like, well, Bill Clinton and the Democratic Leadership Committee, the DLC, which sold the party of unions and the working class out to this elitist group, and then thus NAFTA and all your union jobs went away. Pretty much everything Ross Perot said. So you lost your union jobs and your pensions and all that too. Also, this elitist group of boomers can feel more elite and be richer and, lord over people. Get it? But I have a question and a compromise. So it's a little bit more context. I graduated from Penn State, with honors. And my degree is plant biology, so it's not like theater or sociology or anything. I have a real science degree and a minor in soil science and turf grass science. My father graduated there too with a degree in biology. He graduated in '78. I graduated in 2010. Okay? around like 2012, 2013, he was going through his desk. He found his old documents. So I know what he paid for a semester. Okay. So I checked 2 inflation calculators. I took what his official documents said he paid for tuition in 1978. And I put them in the inflation calculator to find out what that would be in 2010 money to make it comparable to mine. And what do you know? Mine was more than triple what he paid. And it's important to note this is a state university and we're both in-state students. So I ask, how's that fair? How is it that, the cost is reasonable and you can pay for it with a summer job for the boomer generation, but then as soon as they get in power, they're like, well, we're the best, more, gives me, mine, me, and everything skyrockets from Gen X on. It's like, they think they deserve the same chance as us. We're us. And that's what I'm basically trying to say is baby boomer supremacism. Like, well, it's no one deserves what we got. We deserve it because we're us. We can't explain why, we just do. Born the lead pinnacles, and even if we gave people a shot, no one could be as good as us. We all need to live to be 120. That shit. Yeah. So that's my question. Now they don't want anybody's student debt really forgiven, although they're all their scams and they had different bankruptcy laws and all that back then. And that's the other thing, houses were a lot cheaper, but then I've heard boomers who bought their house in 1968 cry about interest rates in 1980. That's a game they like to play. They always play, the interest rates were 18% in 1980, as if every boomer bought their house in 1980. They didn't. Lies. Or some of them cry about their interest rate on their second home. Oh, woe is me. So here's my compromise. And because boomers don't want anybody to get anything they didn't have. That's why that little bit of COVID relief money, even like retired boomers who weren't working anymore and thus not missing paychecks from their job, got that money. Even though COVID, obviously, if you're retired and they have pensions, they took those away for future generations too, unless you want to be a cop or a firefighter. And it's real hard to be a firefighter. They made sure to thin those numbers out. So the Social Security checks and the pension checks kept coming regardless of COVID. So the income that they were normally getting, but they had to get extra too, because God forbid anybody gets a dime more than they have. All right, my compromise. Why can't we change it so that state universities, state, not private, private can charge whatever they want. State universities for in-state students, again, charge whatever you want for out-of-states. So residents of a certain state, the cost for them to go to a state university in that state should be equal to what the boomers paid. In other words, like, there's records of what tuition was in the 70s. Obviously, adjust for inflation, and that should be the cost. How is that not fair? How is that? In Southern California, boomers were damn near free, but I'm talking from what I know, or on this side of the country. How's that not fair? I've never heard any explanation as how it's perfectly fair that they paid, a third of the cost in tuition in real money. And then the baby boomers, when they took power in the 80s, once they were all out of school and Gen X was starting to go, jacked it up. And that's perfectly fair. They've never answered for it. They just say it's fair, and it just, typical, it just is, because we said so. If I say it, it's true. And that's why, a lot of boomers, they're called the most narcissistic generation, especially if you read A Generation of Sociopaths by Bruce Cannon Gibney. I suggest you read it. He's a Gen Xer. But yeah, why? I've seen this, and again, I'm not talking all boomers, but I constantly see this this almost religious defense of this neoliberal corporatist nightmare that's been going on since the 80s from that generation. But they can't explain in detail why. They can't give any reason why they defend it so much. It's just this like hive mind, if it status quo good, because that's why it is status quo. So status quo must be good. Change of any kind, bad. Status quo good. It's that, that primal. Yeah. So I'm asking some, legitimate questions. If you have any if this makes anybody angry, feel free to leave angry comments, but back them up. I don't want to hear platitudes. Another thing they're big on. If you have, actual reasoning, like, an actual counterpoint to make, you know, not, well, I say so and I'm right by definition, which is all I've gotten. So, but how is that not fair? And for those of you that have student debt, you know, I've managed to pay most of mine off because I worked as a teaching assistant and a research assistant when I was in university. I went, you know, I got a scholarship to go a year abroad, 1 year too. It was Canada. And, you know, I sold plasma and worked 70 hours a week in the summer. And still that wasn't enough because, you know, I had to pay triple what my dad did in real money because the boomers said that was fair because, you know, more for me kind of thing. Yeah. So now, while I was ranting, I think I did make at least one clear point. How's that not a fair compromise? You know, for future generations to pay what the baby boomers paid in college. Again, of course, adjusted for inflation, but not, you know, adjust for inflation and then triple. How's that fair? And it's fair to ask the boomer generation that because them, represented by their politicians that they voted in, did those changes, and it is by and large that generation that continues to vote in incumbents that the younger generation once voted out, because on the left and the right, we're both left sick of neoliberals, the right sick of neoconservatives. So there is a consensus there that, you know, the establishments in both parties have to go. And who represents the establishments in both party in both houses of Congress? It's the baby boomers, most of which of them have been there since at least the 90s or not longer. Yeah, so, you know, step aside, you've had your time.